Hello, welcome back to week 4 of the Maroon Momentum Show. I am your host, Jonathan Duff, and it is good to be back with you. Not as good as last week, coming off a loss this week, 38-7 at Marshall. We'll get into that, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the week ahead with West Georgia. A lot of familiar faces and EKU ties on the West Georgia team. I'm excited to talk about that. But before we get into it, and I get into my first guest of the evening, I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to my sponsor. Shout out to John Clark State Farm. The Maroon Momentum Show is proud to be presented by John Clark State Farm. I've said it many times. It's a man, John Clark. I've gotten to meet him in Richmond as he's starting his new business, and he's doing really well, and just a man of great values and a guy you can count on. And I wholeheartedly mean that. I said it before, too, a football guy. He's got a playing background, got a coaching background, and has deep roots there in Richmond. So if you're in Richmond, go check out John Clark State Farm. The saying could never be more true. You can always count on Clark. So with that said, I'm going to bring on our first guest of the evening. I'm excited to talk to him, another one of my former roommates. Just going through the roommates right now with back-to-back weeks on the show. But former roommate Jeremy Edwards, Australian punter for EKU. After his great career here at EKU, he went on to play for the Toronto Argonauts last year in the CFL and won the Grey Cup. So without further ado, I will bring on Jeremy Edwards.
What's up?
What's going on, Jeremy? How are you?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I know, once again, it's the same thing as Stone. I keep in touch with you. I know your whereabouts, and I know that you're watching EKU every week just like we are, but I kind of want to take a different route just because your story is so unique. And, I know you've been on plenty of EKU shows, but there are some people who may not know the story or new to EKU with kids on the team or whatnot. So kind of just dive into your recruiting process, how Pro Kick worked and everything like that, and then just how you started this journey and decided to come to America.
Yeah, for sure. So it started back in 2020. I was watching the NFL on TV, and I remembered one of my friends went through this punting academy and went over to he played at Iowa State in the Big Ten. So he went through this academy. So I lurked his Instagram and found this academy and shot him an email, and then before you know it, I was trying out for this academy called Pro Kick. So they basically teach Australians who grew up playing Australian rules football. So we have that background in kicking the football around. They basically teach us the ins and outs of the game, and some of the things to expect when we get over there to college. I trained with them for 18 months, and they sent some film across to us, a couple of different coaches. And then it was our old special teams coordinator before D-Day. His name was Kevin McKeithen. He recruited me, got me signed up, came back, and then flew on out to Kentucky in the dead of winter. I left Australia in the beautiful 40-degree weather and landed in Chicago 24 hours later, and it was like minus 10. It was, and that's Celsius for all you guys out there. I kind of do like 110 Fahrenheit down to like, I don't know, 0, something like that. I think, I don't know if I did that correctly, but that was pretty much my journey. And then played 2 years at at Eastern, and then went through the whole draft and pro day process that you're fresh off doing. And I was fortunate enough to get signed in the first round of the draft in 2023 to 2024 to the Argos. So I spent last year with them, had some success, and then was ultimately released from them this year. So it was, wild ride.
Yeah, it's a wild, but it's really an awesome story, and you've been a part of some incredible football. You've had some incredible punting seasons and experiences yourself. Um, I want to talk about, and obviously, like I said, I have the cheat sheet. I know you very well, and I knew Phil before you, who was an Australian punter out of Pro Kick. Phil Richards here for EKU, but tell me about the kind of prestige or honor, or just, is there any obviously there's a sense of pride in whatever school you attend, but a sense of pride being an Australian and coming to EKU after Jordan Berry and Keith, and I'll never pronounce his last name right, but he's great. Phil, it was a great line, and I think we were one of the first, if not the first, to have an Australian putter. So kind of talk about that for me, please.
Yeah, well, Jordan came over, one of the first Australians to come over, and obviously had a stellar career at EKU, and then went on to have a long NFL career with the Steelers and the Vikings as well, and a few other workouts here and there. His brother plays for UK right now. He's played the last couple of years there. So there's definitely a strong line of berries in the Kentucky area. But yeah, I was essentially the last one to be over here at EKU. So there was big shoes to fill. There was obviously Phil had some great years in there as well, and then back to Keith being All American, and Jordan going on to the NFL. So there's definitely a lot to kind of live up to. So I know I definitely didn't do that my first year. I was terrible my first year, averaging like 36 or something like that. But we locked in for the second year and had a bit better of a year. So there's definitely a strong pipeline of Australians coming through to EKU, which ultimately wrapped up with me. I think I haven't seen anyone kind of in talks with Easton since I left.
Not yet. But when you talk about the whirlwind of your first season being your first year in America, in a new country, away from family, your first year, your first game is your first ever American football game. You never stepped foot in one before until your first punt. You'd never been out on that field in a game. How surreal is that? And I remember Phil Richards telling me that when he was going through his first game, he didn't know until the day of the game that they went for 3.5 hours. And he was like, this is the worst thing I've ever been a part of. So tell me, just like, what was that shock like in your first year, your first game, the first punt?
There was it was much the same. Like I remember the first game that I ever watched from start to finish was that game at Eastern Michigan that I played in. So I'd never actually watched a game from the opening kickoff to the final siren. So I was kind of out there. I was walking around. I was like, "Fuck, I'm tired. Like my legs hurt a little bit. Like just standing up for so long." But I remember standing there, like waiting for that first punt to come, and it was kind of like a surreal moment where I kind of looked around at everybody, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do after I kick this. So I just kind of like, I didn't even kick it. I shanked it, and then kind of just looked around a little bit, and then started like walking down the field, and then I got into like a light jog, and I was like, run off the sidelines, and I literally said to McPeak, Coach McPeak, I was just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do out there, and he's just like, kick the ball and run over to it, and I was like, okay.
I
And then
remember that.
we refined that a little bit later on in practice that week, and got that sorted out, so that was nice. But and then the second game was the Bowling Green game that went for like 3 days.
Yeah. 4.5 hours, 7 overtimes.
Yeah, that was a wild experience to be part of, but pretty incredible.
Definitely. I mean, it was at the time it was third longest game in college football history. I know that there was a game last year that went 7 or 8 overtime, so it might be down to 4 now. But so let's segue into that. Just talk about highlights. You get 2 years at EKU before going to the CFL. What were some of the highlights and experiences? What makes EKU so special? Just kind of give me some insight into your mind.
Geez, highlights. There's a fair few to go through. Definitely my first game, that first kick when I shanked it. I mean, like it's definitely a performance low light, but it's like, what a better way to start your career. You start at rock bottom and then kick it off from there. And I think next game we had one blocked as well. So I mean,
Yep.
two hell starts. But moving on from that, we obviously won the conference in the first year. Made it to the playoffs for the first time in I kind of 11 years or 7 years or something that EKU had been in the playoffs
It was
when we got there.
many years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Many
that
years.
was pretty special. So getting that ring in that first year, that was unreal. And then second year, coming through and playing a lot better, which was nice. Yeah, I can't really remember much from my second year, to be honest. Graduating was obviously up there, but as far as that second year went, we kind of
Yeah.
struggled a little bit on the field, and I had a lot more kicks that year and whatnot. But we got to see some pretty amazing things. We traveled out to Utah, traveled all around. where else did we fly that year? We flew somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think or something. But yeah, that was
Did we
fantastic.
go to
But
Texas that year?
I don't know if we went to Texas or not. Can't remember. But the highlight for my career has always been looking up in the stands and seeing my family there. Like that was just really special to
Hang
do
on, I'm doing
something
the
week in
reboot.
and week out. What happened? You still there?
This might be technical. Hello, are
Oh,
you there?
yeah, I got you.
All right, you got me now?
Yeah, I can see you.
I'm not
I'm
quite
watching.
sure what happened. I'm going to blame the apartment complex maybe.
Yeah, I did get a refund on that. um, but yeah,
Yeah,
the highlight that I always come back to is looking up and seeing my family in the stands, like doing something week in, week out, and working so hard all year for it, and then getting to share that moment with your family. It's really special. So that's definitely a highlight.
I can't agree more. Talk to me about how cool the bond is here at EKU and, the Warren Cleat Club, just how special that is to be a part of and everything.
It's one of a kind, man. Everyone, like everyone talks about, playing the FCS level, trying to ball out, and then transfer into like one of those big schools or anything like that. But you don't get that community that you get at a school like EKU, like the Warren Cleat Club. It's such a tight knit community, and they literally do anything for each other. So they all get together before each game and have their tailgates. Some of them travel around to other games and whatnot too. So it is pretty special to have that sort of support behind you. And why would you want to play anywhere else other than a place that has this tight of a community behind it?
100%. I couldn't agree more. You mentioned kind of the crazy times of NIL, people transferring, wanting to go get money, stuff like that. It's a wild time that we live in. You came in the thick of it and got to see it, for 2 quick years. And I think you can relate to, I really think rosters turn over every 2 years because, you're 2 years out now. And how many people do you know on this team? Do you know a lot of them personally or?
I barely know any of them. Like I know the likes of
Yeah.
Cam, quarterback, gone receiver. Jackson, again, quarterback, gone receiver. Know a couple of the other guys that are getting around out there, like Daquan. A couple of the guys on defense, like Cam Junior, who you're about to, who you, oh, I don't think I was supposed to say that, but people know that he's coming on. Cam Junior.
What did you say?
I dropped that Cam Junior
Oh
was
yeah,
about to be
he's
on the
about to
show.
be on.
Okay, cool. I didn't know I was supposed to say that or anything.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
I advertise it. We
okay,
advertise.
sweet. Yeah, and I know some of the guys. Like I'd been back last year a couple times to see all the fellas and watch you play a couple times, and so I know some of the guys, but not really that much on a personal level or anything like that. But yeah, there's a couple of guys still kicking around. But I'm watching. I know obviously the specialists like Baker and whatnot. But watching the games on the
Right.
TV, I'm just like, I have no idea who these guys are.
So this weekend, I know that you'll know two guys, Kiari McGlure and Keandre McGlure, two of our former teammates playing for West Georgia. Uh, is that a weird feeling, when I got to play against Kiari last year. You did not, unfortunately, but how strange is it, to see your former teammates all in these different uniforms nowadays?
It's it's weird to see it, honestly. And I guess I kind of had a bit more of an insight to it, being up here in the CFL and everything. Roster turnover is so much more than in college, but still, like they're the guys you played college with, and like we spent. Both Gary was there for both years, and Keandre was there for my. He was there for the first year, and then transferred out, maybe in the spring, or I can't remember when the exact date was,
Yep.
but yeah, I think it's great that they're both playing. Um,
Yeah.
West Georgia's rolling right now. They're 2-0, aren't they? Are they 2-0?
They're 3-0. They're ranked
3-0.
22 right now according to the stats poll. So Chiari actually
Yeah.
had an interception last week. And it's one of those weird things where I think a lot of people who, It's a new era where people are transferring everything like that, and a lot of people don't understand it. But it's people don't understand too. Like when you're in the locker room with these guys like Keandre and Chiari and people like that, like you don't break that bond just because they left, unless it was on bad terms, and they did not leave on bad terms, right? So you still
Yeah.
support them and root for them, and it's something weird that's a little bit different nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm hot for him watching him get out there and actually.
But
God,
let me
you
check
hear
here on technical difficulty.
that? Damn, someone's blowing stuff up out there. Yeah, I'm super excited to see him out there getting their shot at West Georgia and playing and bowling out. So it's gonna be exciting to see him. It's gonna be exciting to see Walt Wells up against the McLaw brothers.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Kind of my last thing going into it, just, we mentioned, CFL Global Draft. I'm sure it was incredible to see your name pop up. Talk about that experience and then just winning the Grey Cup last year, the equivalent to the Super Bowl for the CFL. Whirlwind of a year. Congratulations. Talk about that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a crazy year. I'm just thankful for the experience and the opportunity to kind of come up here and give it a go. So yeah, watching the draft at like 1:30 a.m. because I was back in Australia at the time. And it was actually my birthday. And yeah, I had been in the talk with one other team, and they had the 12th pick. So I was kind of they had the third and the 12th pick, and they passed on me with the third. So I kind of thought they were going to take me with the 12th. Um, and then yeah, Toronto came in and started me with the 7th pick. My name came up, and I was kind of just like, whoa, that's me. That's wild. And then it took a couple of days to really set in, but I really only had a couple of days. Like I got drafted on a Wednesday morning, and then I flew out on the Monday. So it was such a quick turnaround. I got straight into it. Went through the year in training camp, played the 2 preseason games, and then backed up the starter for the whole year. Um, and made it through all the way to the Grey Cup. So Grey Cup was crazy. They flew us out to Vancouver for the whole week. We practiced in Vancouver. We did like media and everything over there, and got all this merch and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was crazy. And then kind of came game day, and the energy was just like unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Everyone was like just bouncing around the night before, super excited, just hyped up. And then on game day, everybody was just ready to kind of go to war. And like, I like to compare it to the EKU locker room on before Bowling Green. McPeak's favorite speech, "Burn the boats." And the guys just
Yeah.
went out there and just flew around and played like that was going to be the last game of their career, which was really special. And yeah, it was pretty close for the first half, and then we just blew them away in the second half, and then it was party time. The locker room was all covered in kind of cling wrap, and there was goggles in there and champagne flying around, and yeah, it was unreal. It was a lot of fun.
I'm sure. I got to see the ring. You showed me it over the 4th of July. What an incredible piece of jewelry. I haven't seen anything remotely close to that in person before. So super cool experience that you got to go through and you earned it. I lied. Last thing I'm going to ask you about. Obviously, you passed the torch to an American punter in Jacob Baker. Um, Talk to me about your punt preferences. Obviously, you're a rollout guy. So when you look at like EKU scheme now, do you prefer rollouts? Do you prefer spiral punts? And inform kind of the audience, what situations for what, and just kind of like what do you like to see out of a punt team?
Yeah. So my preference when I first arrived at EKU was to roll out because I was most confident with it. Excuse me. Um, And then, kind of as my career developed into my second year, I got a lot more comfortable in the pocket and kicking those spirals, especially with different weather conditions, like if it was really windy or if it was wet. I prefer just to kind of kick the spirals. And the good thing about Coach D Day is that he put a lot of trust in me. He said, like, look, you're the one that kicks the ball. You know how to do it best. So you just run it out there. You just call what you want, and that's what we'll run. So put a lot of trust in me, which was great. And I got the opportunity to really run the punt team and kind of orchestrate what kind of kick I wanted to do. Baker's got a huge leg. Like I've seen him in person kicking balls through practice and everything. He had one, like his last punt of the day last week was 70 yards. Like it caused the receiver to drop it, and it got a nice roll out of there. But the thing that I see with his spiral is it can be quite inconsistent, especially with his drop. That's the thing that I've kind of picked up on watching him punt. So I'd like to see him roll out more. I've seen him, like, his consistency when he rolls out. He hangs it up there. He hits it over 40 yards and is consistent each time. So that's what I kind of want to see from him. Like going forward, it'd be a bit more efficient, a bit more kind of beneficial towards the team. Especially that's what you need. Like, you just ultimately it's a team game, so you want to put your defense in the best position possible. And those kind of shorter kicks aren't going to cut it. So we really need to. I'd like to see him roll out more because he's got a strong leg, and he makes great contact when he rolls out. And just get the ball on the ground, like get the ball out of the returner's hands. Like, if he sees the returner on one side of the field, kick it to the opposite side of the field, kick it so the returner can't get to it, put it on the ground on purpose. In my second year when D-Day kind of gave me the reins a little bit, I'd say to him, I was like, look, coach, I'm just going to kick it on the ground and he's not going to be able to pick it up. So I'd kick like a watermelon ball that would just roll sideways and hit the ground, and you get a nice roll from it. So I'd like to see Bag roll out, get outside the pocket a little bit more, and use his legs and really, really try and get that nice consistent kick each time.
No doubt. Baker coming off a great season, a first team all conference season, coming in preseason punter of the year watch list. Uh, um, like you said, incredible leg potential. I mean, he just booms the ball. So I think two key things that you hit on there was one that, one thing that Coach Day does great is he gives you comfortability in terms of he allows his punter to do what he's most comfortable with. And the second thing is I think people do get hung up, in hang time or
Uh-oh.
with that said.
Still
All
there,
right, I'm
Duff?
back on.
There he
Did I
goes.
did I cut out here for a second?
Yeah, you did. We lost you at people get hung up on the hang time and the big spiral
Am
punt.
I back on?
Yeah. Speed kills, brother.
Yeah,
How you doing?
absolutely. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Well, with that said, I'm clearly having technical difficulties over here. Probably need to check the Wi-Fi around. Call the head of the apartment or something like that. But with that said, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. It's been great getting to talk to you. Great getting to catch up and hear about the journey for you. And I hope we do this again here soon. You're always welcome on.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'll be on whenever y'all want. So I'm happy to be on.
Awesome. I appreciate it. You have a good one. Thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it, man.
And I cut him off, but this Wi-Fi is brutal. But I'm gonna have the man of the hour on here, and hopefully we don't have any issues. I got Cam Junior, outside linebacker, team captain for the EKU Colonels, coming off a 9-tackle, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble game, a monster game against Marshall. I'm gonna welcome him here to the stage. What's going on, Cam? How are you? Hope I got you muted right now.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm gonna need you to bear with me. Apparently, the Wi-Fi's on one right now. I know you saw that. So, um,
Gotcha, gotcha.
but man, first of all, congratulations as far as being picked in team captain by your peers. How special does that feel?
It's a real special thing to me. Seeing a lot of guys see me as a leader. Also, I had to lead by example, so I feel like a lot of guys pick me by leading by example. But picking up my teammates and trying to push them to do the best has also persuaded them to pick me as one of the team captains. I'm very grateful and very thankful for that.
Absolutely. You're a guy who comes in and shows up to work every day. I know that from experience. And you just, you put the work in and you're reaping what you sow, especially last game. I mean, I went through it already. 9 tackles, 2 sacks, a forced fumble. You were coming off the edge. I mean, with speed, with intensity. What was kind of the game plan going into that? Obviously you play well every week, but to have that monster game like that, what was the mindset and the position that they put you in on the defense schematically for last week?
I mean, keep contained, stop the run. That was a big thing for our defenses that week because they had 3 quarterbacks. They also used them in scrambling, a lot of QB draws and a lot of QB runs. And then the running backs, they have pretty good running backs. So just keep them because they like to bounce out to the outside. So keep it contained, forcing the ball inside and cut to the inside linebackers.
Right. Well, it worked for you. I mean, you're running free like a madman, like I said. Let's talk about just kind of your overall football journey because obviously a lot of people know you. A lot of people know you as the guy that produces on Saturdays. But maybe some people don't fully know your journey, coming out of high school, going to Cincinnati, coming to EKU. Can you just give me kind of a brief overview of that journey for you?
I mean, well, living in Middletown, Ohio, all of high school, being part of like a team that had a lot of athletes, we had a lot of losses, we lost a lot, but we had so many athletes coming from that school. Athletes before us, like Jalen Marshall, my brother EJ Junior. There's a lot of people that played before me. Ohio State, Cincinnati,
Yep.
all around. Cole Smith, guy at Cincinnati I used to go to. I had a lot of offers coming out of high school. It was a big thing for me for who I was gonna pick. But Marcus Freeman, head coach at Notre Dame, he recruited me heavily to come to Cincinnati. I didn't know he was gonna leave me by the time I got there, but uh, go, going there, Coach Fickle, he's at Wisconsin now. They brought me over there, and I succeeded as a freshman. I played 2 games my sophomore year. I was progressing to become a starter. I was a starter not freshman, but spring sophomore year, fall sophomore year. But I tore my, obviously I tore my knee. Um, After that, my coaches left. They decided to go to Wisconsin, and I decided to stay at Cincinnati for that spring. Coach from Louisville, great coaches, but they decided to come, and I wasn't really a great fit. I wasn't really a great fit for their type of defense because the guy I was at Cincinnati was more of a hybrid linebacker slash safety. They didn't really have that, and the players that they did have was kind of smaller nickel guys like corners. I'm a little bit bigger on the more athletic side, not that small, but took a chance in the portal. Had a lot of offers in the portal. My big dog, Sheikh Salou Fall. Went to high school with him, so he hit me up, say he want me to come down here. He talked to Coach Day. Coach Day hit me up, try to recruit me to come here, and out of all the teams, EKU offered the same position I played at Cincinnati in all of high school. So I feel like coming to EKU was going to be a big upbringing for me. Especially getting where I want to be, playing multiple different positions on the field. So that's how I came to EKU for real.
It's super neat to get the opportunity to play on the same college team as one of your high school teammates. Obviously, Sheck Fall, someone that I got to get close with in my time at EKU, a 2020 guy came in with me. Obviously, I'm from the Dayton area, so not too far from you. I know we actually had a 7-on-7 against each other in high school, so small worlds colliding. And I know that Marcus Freeman, the coach for Notre Dame that recruited you to Cincinnati, is a Dayton, Ohio guy. So a lot of people coming out of that Dayton, Middletown, Cincinnati area. Super cool, super small world. So obviously you got to EKU, and I feel like, you come in and you make an immediate impact. You're on the field right away. But there's something about it where, last year made an immediate impact, or 2 years ago made an immediate impact, played really well. Last year, even better. This year, monster season to start so far. What's your kind of mindset in the off season? What are you improving on? Is there a focus each year, or why do we see that gradual, consistent improvement out of you?
Well, I always been a guy that, even coming from Pop Warner Pee Wee all the way up, that I always been a guy. And I went through a lot of lot of challenges that a lot of college football players go through when they first go to college. And you're not the guy no more. There's so many guys on the team, and you had to battle for your position. And, I was battling for my position, and I had like a lot of mental things go on with me. And I realistically, a part of my game was really my mental. If I can't focus, I can't, perform on the field. Um, every year I gradually got better with my mental, went to therapy, the past 2 years and this and that, just getting my mental together, talk to my coaches, talk to my family. This year, I've always been a hard believer of God. And, this year I feel realistically, I wouldn't say it's a ability thing because I always had ability, gifted from my family. It's in my genes. But putting God first in my life, I put God first, all the time. But, just having that communication with him and actually instead of just using that communication and having that communication with God, I actually use what God is putting in my life to further better my game. And I've seen it in these past 3 games, realistically.
Absolutely. I mean, that's powerful message in itself. Obviously, anytime you're aligning with what God wants you to do, great things are going to happen, and that's super super cool, super exciting uh, to hear that from you, and just that's a huge part to your success. And obviously, I see you, like I said, every year getting better. Every year, you show up to work, you go to work, and then the next season, it's like, dang, look at Cam Junior, and then the next season, it's like, man, he's even better, man. So I believe, the rest of the team sees that. That's why they lean on you. That's why they name you a captain. And that's why you show up in the big moments like last week. Talk to me kind of about the defense's evolution, because you came in, and the first year that you came in, we were a bottom 10 defense in the country. So now we're looking, I mean, last year and this year, we're looking at one of the top defenses in FCS football. Is that a scheme difference? Is it a mentality difference? What led to this huge shift at EKU where defense is now just the strong suit of the team?
It's just the work ethic. We preach dominate. Domination is a big part of our game. Finish was the word of last year, but dominate is the word this year. I think a lot of people on our team take it serious. The new guys take it serious. The older guys, that are the vets, they take it serious. So we put that a part of our game, and in order to dominate, it's dominate everything you do. Dominating your job, knowing what you have to do, dominating in the film room, knowing your opponent, knowing your teammates, knowing what your teammate has to do. And I feel like our defense has put forth effort into, knowing what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to do it.
And it's apparent. It's apparent. You guys have been incredible already to start the year. Obviously, had a great year last year. When you look at the defense, there's a lot of key players. I mean, Jaheim Moore's having a great year. Your D-line's incredible. The linebackers are incredible. I just named everybody. Vito, everybody's looking good. Tell me, obviously as an inside backer, you got to lean on the D-line, right? They got to keep those guys off of you so you can scrape free. DBs got to communicate to each other. When you look at your position there at Sam, who do you have to lean on the most? Is it everybody? What's the keys to your position in terms of communication and working with other defenders?
It's crazy to think about it. We had to defend. I mean, we had to depend on everybody outside of the nose. Everybody, because you got to depend on the end. You got to depend on the linebackers. You got to depend on the corners and the safeties. It's all going to affect the Sam. It's all based around, our defense is really based around the Sam. But how we have progressed so much in our defense that we use everybody in our defense. And then, having those guys around me like Jay Bailey, Jaheim, Derek Taylor, Vito, and then you had Rashad Hintz. Having all of those guys around me has, pushed me to do better because I have to also know what they're doing in order for me to do what I have to do. I rely on my guys. A lot of the plays I made are just because of the D-line and Sully. he's an inside linebacker. He hits his gap. I had to fold off around him. I'm getting the sack right there just because of Sully, or Bradley Gurley. They're doing their job. They're doing the job the best they can do it, and I rely on them a lot, just as much as they rely on me.
And that's what makes a good defense. You hear, I got to have Frank Lee on, I've got to have Jaheim on, I've gotten to have Sully on, and it's the same theme. It's work ethic, it's communicating, and it's everybody in it together. You can see it in the gang tackling that you guys have and the energy that you play with. Talk to me about, you got to walk the line between too chippy and chippy enough, the swagger, like I said, the moxie, the chip on your shoulder you got to have to play defense. Where's that fine line, and how do you feel that you guys do, because you guys play with a lot of passion?
We play with a lot of passion. We have a lot of what's the word, like an older word than my dad would probably say. We have a lot of moxie on our team. We got a lot of players with mouths. They're gonna use it to communicate with their team, to yell at their team to do better. And also when it comes to the other teams, you better not talk about it. You feel me? Because we're gonna prove it to it. I feel like our words have been, a big play in our game. Being able to communicate, being able to back things up when we do trash talk. Cause there's gonna be a lot of trash talk in football, but it's just really the communication part is just where we put our life at. When you don't have no communication, you don't have a great defense.
Absolutely. That makes total sense. It seems to be a common theme. We look at Louisville as an anomaly a little bit with the running back and everything, but you guys still had some huge right spots, forcing turnovers. You look at Houston Christian, I think you held them to 10 points, if I remember correctly. And then last week, obviously 38, but you guys were put multiple times in short field situations. Bend don't break situations. You're getting the ball back after a turnover, getting the ball back after a turnover, getting the ball after, or getting back out there after a blocked punt, all kinds of tough situations. And you guys held your own. Is that, would you say that you keep the same mentality when you go out there, or is there a different message preached when you go out there and you're starting off in the other team's red zone?
I mean, it's really like, it's our job. As a defense, it's our job to stop teams wherever they are, wherever they're going to be at. Louisville was a hard situation for us, 51 points, even though, if our offense could score, they could do this, they could do that. But the weeks go by, our defense gets stronger, our offense figure themselves out. And I feel like throughout the season, it's going to go from some teams having 50 points to some teams having 38 points to some teams having 10-0, And
Right.
that's going to be our thing every week. It's going to be 3 and outs live. It's just because this defense has a lot of guys that are just outrageous in this world. Like they come from a lot of backgrounds just because they want to feed their family too. They have a name right across their chest, and it says the Colonel. So we pled and bleed Maroon Doom. So we're going to progress as it goes. Like I said, talking defense, a communicating defense is a great defense, and we're learning more together. And I feel like it's going to be real hard for offenses to beat our defense.
The chemistry is visible, and I think you said some key things too. I think a lot of people do look at the scoreboard a little bit when they're evaluating a defense. When that there's different situations, obviously you want to get 3 and outs, but there may be some times when you get short fields. There may be sometimes, if the offense isn't rolling, you guys are out there 3/4 of the game, and it's just something you got to deal with. I think you all do an incredible job of adjusting to whatever situation you're put in, and that's been very noticeable. And I think that's a testament to you all. That's a testament to Coach Johnson, the defensive room. What was the message coming out of Marshall last week, just as a team? Was there anything specific with the leaders that got together, or is it just stay the course? It's early.
It was more of just playing your game. Um, Coach Johnson said, we might be put in situations, but it's still our duty, our job to stop the offense, no matter where you are. And that's the thing I said before. We got that straight from Coach Johnson. We gotta stop. We gotta stop the defense. We gotta do the little things. All the touchdowns that I would say Marshall has scored, or a lot of teams like Louisville or even Houston Christian have scored, it was based off of small details, and the small details can become big things. It could be one player, but one player can mess up a whole defense, and that's part of our communication. We have to stay together. We have to communicate. We have to learn each other's. We have to learn each other what each other does, and we have to study our playbook and study our opponent, and that's going to lead to being a great defense.
I think those moments that you talk about where there's one player maybe out of position or one issue that leads to a huge play, a touchdown, whatever, I think those can be so valuable for a team. I've sat in on those team meetings where, you're pointing out there's one person out of spot, but I think it's important for the whole to see, that's how important my job is on that play. And I think that's been a huge mindset change in the defense that I've seen, is just everyone holds themselves, like you say, accountable to their one play. You certainly held up your end last week. Let's talk about going into this week, West Georgia. You've gotten, obviously it's midweek right now, so you still have a lot more prep to go, but so far on film and everything, what are you kind of seeing and what do they like to do? And, a little bit, obviously don't show your cards, but what's kind of like the game plan, or what can the fans like us expect to see this weekend?
It's going to be a lot of running. Not the best. Not the best passing quarterback. Disrespect to him, he's not the best passing quarterback. He's been there last year, so he has a few targets we know he's going to throw to. But I think their main focus is going to be the run. It's just stopping the run. That's all it is. It's stopping the run, they're going to look at the Marshall film, and they're going to look at films before that, like Louisville and Houston Christian, and see what we messed up at in the game, and they're going to use it against us. So they're going to try to run on us, and every team's going to try to run on us, and they're going to find that you can't throw against our DBs, and it's going to be hard to run. You're going to have to earn every bit of yard you're going to get, and it's not going to happen as much as you think it is.
I have no doubt. It's neat, you come out of a game and you go watch the film, where someone may think your weaknesses are, and they could be wrong. It could be just an off week, but they're going to go exploit whatever they see. And so you kind of have an idea when you go into these weeks like this. You're like, all right, I know what their game plan is going to be. So I'm looking forward to watch it this weekend. Man, congratulations on a great game. Obviously not the outcome you wanted, but I thought it was definitely Cam Junior making a name for himself on Saturday. I'm excited for you, team captain. A lot of things going for you. So good luck this weekend. Good luck the rest of the year. I'm positive that you're going to have a great rest of the season, and I appreciate you coming on this show.
I appreciate you, man.
Awesome. I will talk to you soon. Rest up and have a great rest of your week. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
That was outside linebacker Cam Junior. Super grateful for him to be on the show. Like I said, team captain, superstar outside linebacker. So grateful to get to talk to him. And as I'm wrapping up, I do not have a co-host like last week, so I'm just going to kind of go through my thoughts a little bit. Obviously you look at last season or last game, and you need the offense to go. And there was a quarterback change. Jordan Potts came in and he looked great. He was getting the ball to some playmakers. Obviously Miles, not the best start that he wanted to see. Obviously huge thing to watch going into this week. Who's going to play, what's the leash like? Definitely an interesting dynamic to be in. But if there's one thing I do know, I know that they, I said this last week. I think Miles is a great leader. I think that he is someone who, no matter what, goes and supports his teammates. So I think that's probably a great competition going on right now. I haven't gotten the opportunity to meet Jordan, but he looked like a playmaker out there on the field, threw a touchdown, got the ball up and down the field a little bit more than we were earlier in the game. So excited to see how that kind of develops. I think a huge key for the offense to get moving, obviously, need the offensive line to go to get Latham to go. We've seen before what his dynamic abilities are, and they need to be on display. We need to get him some holes and get him the rock and get him an opportunity to get loose, especially, as we're into FCS play and conference play. And then I think another great key is just Marcus Cowwise. Jordan came in, he gave him 2 quick throws, and you could see the dynamic playmaking ability that Marcus Cowwise has, and we saw it last year as well. That's why he was a freshman All-American. So, I think O-line needs to get moving, obviously, and they know that, and they're doing a good job. But I'm just saying, I think the keys to the game coming up this week is O-line play and getting the studs the ball. Cowwise, you got Latham, and then you also have Jaden West. Shout out to Jaden West for his first career touchdown. Super awesome to see that. I think it was his first career. He might have had one last year. Either way, he had a touchdown. Super cool to see that. Another playmaker with incredible jump ball ability. So moving on from that too, in games like that where the offense may be struggling and the defense is stepping up in a lot of short field situations, special teams will need to step up moving forward, just clean up, block punts, giving up returns. And I said it last week, a dynamic return game can fix a lot of things with the offense. It really is a game of field position, and you don't want your defense to be out there the majority of the game, and you don't want them having to battle a short field all game. So when you have a weapon of a defense like that, go ahead and let's move the ball a little bit. Let's pin them deep and let's get some big returns. Easier said than done. Coach Wells always says, I wrote this down, as I'm going through my game notes for last week and everything. Coach Wells always said special teams have to be special. And that cannot be more true. I think Coach Day is an incredible special teams coach. You heard it from Jeremy. He lets his guys do what they're comfortable with, and that's why we saw some explosive plays out of Jalen Montgomery last year. That's why we see some great punts out of Baker, kicks. Buzz has looked great this season. Quade Luganville snapping the ball well. Blake Howard snapping the ball well. Got to give a shout out to them. So I think that the special teams will clean up this week. I think there's a lot of playmakers on that field, and I even see Jaheim, a superstar for the team, and a preseason All-American on special teams. That's important because the more studs you have on the field, the better your special teams are going to be. Moving forward, this conference slate is a doozy. They got West Georgia to start conference play, and then I believe we got Nichols coming here and another non-conference game. But, the conference play is here starting this week and coming down the pipe. Stats Perform has Tarleton State ranked 3rd, Abilene Christian ranked 14th, Austin P ranked 18th, West Georgia ranked 22, and EKU receiving votes. So a stacked UAC. It is wide open for the taking. Obviously, first 3 games the record isn't what you always want, but to be there receiving votes, you're going to have to come up and knock some of these guys off. We've done it plenty of times before. So exciting opportunities ahead. West Georgia this week, I mentioned it. Chiari and Keandre McGlure, former EKU players, running back and DB, are at West Georgia. We also have TJ Lester, running back. He is a running back for West Georgia. He had a touchdown last year. Son of the late, great Tim Lester, 8-year NFL vet, EKU legend. So pretty cool EKU ties this weekend going into West Georgia. I know a lot of people will be there tailgating. A lot of Warren Clee Club people have some, had some relationship with Tim Lester and his family. So that'll be an exciting time. Would love to see, the Colonels come out victorious this weekend. Obviously, we're always rooting for that. So I hope to see you guys, down in Georgia. And if you can't make it, please tune in, cheer on the Colonels. Let's make it a loud and proud EKU weekend. And with that said, thank you to my guests, Jeremy Edwards and Cam Junior, for coming on the show tonight. Great content. And thank you to my sponsor of this show, Maroon Momentum Show, presented by John Clark State Farm. You can always count on Clark. Please check out his office in Richmond. You will not regret it. We all have insurance needs. At least give him a shot and check him out for yours, because I promise he will do a great job. So with that said, thank you all for tuning in with me this week. Have a great rest of your week. And we'll be back to Thursday night next week at our normal time. And with that said, go Colonels. Beat West Georgia, and I'll see you all next week.